The leader of al-Qaeda and a key figure behind the 9/11 terror attacks is now dead after a U.S. drone strike in Afghanistan. President Biden announced the news from the White House last night. He said intelligence officials tracked down Ayman al-Zawahiri to a home in downtown Kabul. Senior investigative correspondent Catherine Herridge joins us from Washington with more on this historic strike. Catherine, good morning.
Good morning, Vlad. Up until a few months ago, the al-Qaeda leader's location was a huge mystery for U.S. intelligence, even with a $25 million bounty on his head. With this new drone strike, senior al-Qaeda leaders behind the 9/11 attacks are either dead or captured.
Justice has been delivered, and this terrorist leader is no more.
President Biden approved the precision strike that killed al-Qaeda leader Ayman al-Zawahiri. 2 Hellfire missiles from a U.S. drone killed al-Zawahiri on the balcony of his hideout in downtown Kabul in Afghanistan.
And the mission was a success. None of his family members were hurt, and there were no civilian casualties.
The terrorist leader was tracked down earlier this year in the busy Afghan capital of Kabul, where he moved to reunite with family.
I gave the final approval to go get him.
Mr. Biden said the successful operation could help close a final chapter of the 9/11 attacks, which killed nearly 3,000 Americans 21 years ago next month. Al-Zawahiri was pivotal to planning the attack.
It's my hope that this decisive action will bring one more measure of closure.
Al-Zawahiri also played a role in al-Qaeda attacks that murdered Americans overseas at 2 U.S. embassies in East Africa and on the USS Cole in Yemen. After Navy SEALs raided this compound in Pakistan 11 years ago, killing al-Qaeda founder Osama bin Laden, Al-Zawahiri took over, and for years, rumors about his death swirled, his location unknown. After last year's chaotic withdrawal of U.S. forces from Afghanistan, Mr. Biden insisted the weekend strike shows the U.S. ability to target terrorists remains strong.
No matter how long it takes, no matter where you hide, if you are a threat to our people, the United States will find you and take you out.
A former senior U.S. military official who ran counterterrorism operations told CBS News the question now is how the al-Qaeda leader could live in the capital, Kabul, without the support of the Taliban, suggesting that the relationship between al-Qaeda and the Taliban remains strong. Vlad, Anne-Marie.
So, as you mentioned, Catherine, al-Zawahiri was located in downtown Kabul. What does this say about this relationship between the Taliban and al-Qaeda? In other words, they are clearly housing and providing shelter, I should say, to a known terror suspect. So I wonder what that means for the future.
Well, Vlad, that's an excellent point. I've reported from Kabul, and this neighborhood is not far from the presidential office as well as the former U.S. embassy in Kabul. And based on the reporting, the house belonged to a senior aide to a Taliban leader. So all of that suggests that the al-Qaeda leader was living and operating inside Afghanistan with the full support and the knowledge of the Taliban. So that raises the question, has this relationship grown since the U.S. withdrew from Afghanistan, or has it always remained lock solid and kind of a safe haven for terrorist groups?
And I think it also sort of raises the question about sort of the health of al-Qaeda. You know, when President Biden pulled out of Afghanistan, it was chaotic, people were very critical, and part of the counter argument was, we've defeated al-Qaeda, it's no longer in existence. But is that the case?
Well, one of the things that makes this strike so different from the raid that killed Osama bin Laden 11 years ago is that in that raid, we had U.S. Navy SEALs on the ground, and they were able to seize documents, videos, electronic media that were then exploited by U.S. intelligence analysts so they could get a real handle on the al-Qaeda network, its membership, as well as its future plotting. Here, unfortunately, we don't have that same scenario with big teams on the ground. So a lot of that intel that may have been with al-Zawahiri is really lost to us and can't really answer or fill in the blanks with those questions.
So, Catherine, you've been reporting on this essentially since 9/11, and we spoke to Michael Morrell earlier this morning on CBS Mornings, and I asked him to sort of give us the context for what this strike means. In other words, on that horrific day on 9/11, we began this war on terror. President Bush and then President Obama had a list of suspected terrorists, people tied to the 9/11 attacks, and they systematically, over the course of the 20-plus years since then, have taken them out. And what this means for this war, this ongoing war on terror. Just give us your take as a journalist covering this.
Well, based on conversations I've had since last evening with military and intelligence contacts, they believe that the next successor for the al-Qaeda leadership is someone called Saif al-Adel. He's a founding member of al-Qaeda. He is someone who rose through the ranks to become a security chief for the founder of al-Qaeda, Osama bin Laden, and he's been wanted by the FBI since 9/11, specifically for his alleged role in the attacks on 2 U.S. embassies in East Africa in 1998 that killed more than 200 and injured another 4,000. So this is an individual who's got street cred with the organization. He's someone who understands the structure of the organization, and he's also been successful in launching large plots against U.S. targets. So the lesson of the last 20 years is that al-Qaeda remains, unfortunately, an extremely resilient organization.
All right, Catherine, thank you very much.